we'll come back to the portfolio. Jana.
I need less than 5 minutes. Morning.
Unless we come up with something, right?
Unless you come up with something.
We do have questions for you.
There is something.
They're pretty easy for you.
We'll do this first.
They're tough for us, but they're easy for you.
Oh boy. So this is agricultural land for 2025. The state certified our numbers. And if we stay where we're at, right now we are at $838 per acre average. If we stay where we're at, we will be at 95.7%. Last year we were at a 99. So literally agricultural land does not need to change to stay within tolerance.
If it were 95 or below, you'd have to adjust.
Nope, 90 or below.
90.
So we're right in the middle.
Oh, so we're in good.
And 95.7, the state will round to 96. So
Well, other than the fact though, that that's probably lagging what the true value is, so do we want to keep it at 99 to truly reflect that? And obviously, I'm not an advocate for raising taxes, but if you left it at 99 and raised it, our valuation in the county would be higher. In turn, that would reflect on having to maybe not raise the mills as much at the end of the year. Correct, Dan?
That's correct, and, okay, 0 last year,
0 the year before.
0 the year before, so this could be 3 consecutive years of no increase.
And see,
As business and retail and residential enjoyed those same perks?
I don't know what
Just
they're doing
saying.
for 25, but they haven't so far.
No. So that is, I mean,
The other thing that I look at is, I looked at the last 3 years of cap rates. Each year, consistently, the cap rate is increased by a tenth of a percent. Anytime a cap rate increases, your valuations decrease. So and the cap rates are based on a 10 of 12-year average interest rate on operating loans through Agri Bank. So if the cap rate keeps increasing, then you're going to see valuations continue to fall. Likewise, if you have production years, I'm guessing that the last 3 years we have brought in similar production years as what we have thrown out, which is why we would be similarly valued per year and not needing any changes. If it continues to be that way, we probably won't need, we fluctuate between that 93 to 98% yearly, as long as it continues the way it is. Because production rates are on an 8 of 10-year average and interest rates are on a 10 of 12-year average.
See, and none of that reflects market value.
No,
It's the goofiest system
Right now-
I've ever heard.
right now my
But commercial
valuations-
and residential does.
Yeah. Right now my agricultural valuations are 28% of what the sales are showing.
Isn't that-
But state law says I have to value at a production rate.
what, so if you're between 90 and 100, obviously you're in tolerance. At what point over 100 would they say it's too high?
100.6 they would lower you.
100.6.
Because they would round 100.6 to 101. And then they'd lower you down to 98, I believe.
It would be like a 10% increase then?
Well, if you want to increase to 99%, you would need a 3% increase.
I don't know if you went to 100 to 106.
So if you
No,
went...
100.6,
I mean,
not
100.
106.
Not even 101.
No,
Right.
100.6.
Yep, 100.6 would they would round to 101 and they would decrease you. So that's why it's very sticky with those percentages as to where I need to be.
So lay out, Jana, probably just lay out a scenario of give them 1 or 2 or 3 at the most options.
3 or too many.
Okay, two options. You either stay where you're at because you'll be within tolerance, or if you want to be on the high side of tolerance, then you increase it by 3% and be at about a 98.9%, which still round to a 99.
And what total valuation in ag land would increase then by how much?
3%. I don't know an actual dollar amount.
No, but,
The majority of our property is rural, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
It's not all ag land, of course,
No.
but the majority of it's rural. Would it be fair to say that gotta be close to 40 million is rural,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
so.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind too is, let's say that the cap rate theoretically increases again next year, and then you have to take a decrease to stay within tolerance. I mean, that's an option too. So the bad thing about fiddling with a percent here and a percent there is that you're constantly going to be changing every year.
is there a lot of work in changing this?
I'm sorry?
Is there a lot of work in changing this?
Well, we have said we'll run all of our agricultural values, which for this year probably wouldn't be a bad idea because we've got enough splits that meaning we've taken one parcel and split it into 2 or 3 different parcels, that it could literally use an update there. But yeah, we have roughly 7,000 parcels and we enter it all again, one by one by one. And then we reconcile at the end of each township.
Versus if you left it the same, you just push one button.
If we left it the same, we wouldn't have to do anything.
Probably wouldn't push a
But
button very hard.
like I said, it's not a bad idea every so often to do an update because then we run all of the splits. And we've had quite a few the last couple of years.
Yeah, so what's your wishes, guys?
The 3%, I would rather do 3% than 1%.
Oh yeah, don't do one if you're gonna do one.
Wow.
You know, there's a side of me that says, if you knew what the state was gonna do down the road to raise it 3%, because that reflects what the market is. And you wouldn't have any pushback from people saying, well, my ag land went up. Yeah, that's because land is selling for $6,000 an acre. You'd have that justification versus some year it may go up when the market doesn't. To me, I just don't understand why market value has no influence here.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, or the nice thing about maybe, is anything that is less than 10% and $3,000, no notices have to go out. So you just do the 3% and you don't have to send anybody a notice.
Right.
So it's just done. You know, they'll see it in their tax statements at the end of the year. And 3% is nothing.
So with the property tax thing being a very big issue this year in the legislature, can that affect a lot of this?
No,
Not valuation.
not
This
valuations.
is just evaluation. And evaluation doesn't necessarily, you know, I'm not advocating raising taxes here. If the valuation goes up, your total valuation in the county goes up. When we look at mills then, mills may not have to go up at the end of
I
the year
understand that. I just-
like they typically.
Because they fit into it then better. yeah.
Mills go down too.
And it should be a combination of those two things. So,
Yes, it
for
is.
example, this year we had to raise our levies. Our levy rates
Yeah.
were raised. Why? Because valuation is not keeping up with inflation and the cost of doing business.
Correct.
And when rural property is the vast majority of the property that we have, you're not gonna fix this by just sticking it all on residential or all on commercial. You're gonna have to deal with what is the majority of your property at some point too, and
Totally
so to
agree.
say 3 years in a row, and I didn't even know I knew it was 2 in a row, but this would be a 3rd consecutive year of no change here.
Yeah.
Three? She wants it, not 1%, she'd rather.
Well, 3%.
3%.
Either wants it no change or
Or
3%.
3, yeah.
Right.
If you're gonna go through the headache and the paperwork.
Right. We might as well.
Right.
Well, it's been a while since it's been
Tempered,
raised. I think we should strongly look at that.
I'll be the bad guy, make a motion and we change ag land valuation to like 3%.
Motion made by Stan to increase the land value to 3%. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Brian M., seconded. Any discussion? Speak up now. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. Anything else for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Sit down.
Okay.
No, you have.
Almost.
One of the questions is, we have pipeline going through, we got windmill going through, are all of our zoning, are all of our townships on board with the correct zoning?
We have had quite a few signed with the county, not all of them are with the county, so.
If you know off the top of your head, you know where the pipeline is slated to go, you know where the wind towers are slated to be. Is there anybody in those two areas that's not on board?
Sykeston Township.
They're on their own.
Let's see, Sykeston, or Billadu, Sykeston, Berlin is on, Holland is on, Chaseley is on, and Bull Moose just signed. So yeah, I think it's just Sykeston.
When you say on, you mean on our county?
On ours, yes.
And
So it's-
Sykeston is the only one not?
Yep, they were one of those townships where they're like, we like your zoning, but there's changes that we would like to make to it and it's like, no, it's a one shoe fits all situation. We're not gonna go in and change per one township.
Do they have their own zoning, or they
No,
have
they
none?
have nothing.
They have none.
Sykeston don't have any.
Mm-mm.
So it would,
That makes them very vulnerable.
exactly.
Well, they have no say in the matter if they
To
do
me,
stuff.
there's,
Their roads get wrecked or whatever, they can't come complain.
gotta come to us though.
Yeah, well,
They'll come
I'm
and
just
complain
saying,
to us
that's,
as the first
that's where
one.
it's gonna go.
like I say, they can't.
No.
And Jana, our portfolio, we've talked about this before, you have certainly encouraged them to get on board.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, you
almost
can't hit them with a
yearly.
stick.
Well, in Sykeston, I assess for Sykeston Township, and I've taken paperwork the last 2 years for zoning to the equalization meeting, and been like, you need to look into this, and it gets nowhere.
And we'll have one more opportunity in the first part of March. Township officers.
And then I'll do it again in April when I have my equalization,
That's all
but
you can do.
yeah.
yeah.
Bull Moose, I was surprised, because they contacted me, and they're like, well, we should really look into this, and about 2 weeks later, I had a signature, so.
Well, that's why we brought it up, is we think it's their business, but it's our job probably to make sure they
Get
can
them
get it
started.
done.
Yep, and I've given them a copy of the original zoning document is 43 pages, and then there's 3 other ordinances that I have 7 pages, and I've given them a copy of all of it. And I'm like, here, read it, you can see what the county has and what we're offering, and yet I haven't heard. Joe Richter called me, asking
he
some
in
questions,
Sykeston?
and I haven't heard since, huh?
Is he in Sykeston?
Yep. So,
Try, keep trying.
yep.
Well, like I say, that's all you can do, so. Anything else for,
You gotta ask about the ag properties that have business interests on them.
Oh,
Oh, the
God,
business
Stan.
properties.
You brought that up, Jana.
Well, I did, and we beat this horse for many years.
Mhm.
What's your opinion on that?
Um,
Because I get
I've
questions out.
asked the state before, and you have to be able to prove, like if you have a farmer doing business as well, you have to prove what percentage of the building is being used for commercial use.
Right,
And
difficult
it's
to
awful
do.
hard when you have farming purposes as well as commercial purposes being used in out of the building.
We talked about in the past, and you and I have talked about it, but just for the group, does Vanguard do things like that?
They do. They will assess and determine anything that you tell them to go and do.
That would be
For
one
a fee,
option.
obviously, but.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I've got a suggestion. One of the things that you gotta remember is most of these guys have got insurance on their farm stuff, but they've also got insurance on their business. So you could go in there and check out what amount of insurance they have and compare it to the sales. That's how the insurance premium is figured out, is mostly going by your sales. So I mean, there's tools to find that.
Well, if you have there's a privacy act there, if you have the ability to do that, or if they're willing to share that information with you.
I'm just saying, that's one angle.
I don't know if I can invest.
What does the state say about that?
They will tell you to refer to your state's attorney.
Okay, well, I'm just,
Well,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's-
there's ways
yeah.
of getting that value, but it's, if they're willing to cooperate.
The reason I'm saying that is, I went. and got
Jana doesn't
insurance.
wanna get beat up.
Right.
And that's why it's been kicked down the road as
Yeah.
long as it has here.
Right.
But I went and got insurance for my mower stuff,
Right.
and, because it's in the building. And I said, do you want, a list of inventory? No. What? No, give us your sales.
And that
What-
insurance is different than your farm liability.
Right,
your farm
exactly,
stuff.
that's a
It's
separate game.
over here.
Is there a percentage number of what is farm?
It has to be 51% or more to be able to put a value on it. On just that portion of the building. So you could have a 50 by 100, and if only the first 50 feet is being used for commercial property, you could only put a value on the first 50 feet.
See, and that's the problem, we're talking about buildings,
Right,
we're not
right.
talking about value.
Right.
Value.
But there's some clear things that you could assess, and I'll give you an example. And the biggest ones are seed
Yeah?
sales.
Yeah.
You have 6 hopper bins that all have soybean seed on and a treater at the end. That's 100% commercial.
Right.
That's
Right.
easy.
What about
And that might be $100 grand right there.
And a guy with
And
mowers.
that's what Vanguard did with all of the elevators. They had the hoppers to
And the
seed
guy with
treat.
mowers.
and
Right.
all that.
It's the rest of that that gets dicey. If you have a skid steer that you use for
Both, yeah.
both,
Well, then it's hard to,
then it's, and that's why Jana's reluctant to
yeah.
crack that nut, so to speak.
No, it's a tough deal.
Anyway.
Anyway, we'll support if you come up with an idea.
Yeah,
It's in your hands.
Oh, boy. Anything else?
I think that was it. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your.
Sheriff's
work.
Department guys, you wanna come on up? There's some chairs there. We want to talk to you.
I don't know.
Morning, guys.
Morning, you'll be just
We're gonna ask you about some girls' basketball strategies. No, I'm just kidding.
Boys played good last night. Did you guys get the call for service report?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Good here.
You could see that it plummeted in December, but we were pretty busy all year with calls. I think we had the most, 93 cases this year, open.
90 what?
93 open.
Oh, wow.
The most we've had since I've been sheriff here.
Wow.
Why is July so busy? Just
Summertime.
people traveling and activities.
Well, June, July, and August, all
Yeah.
3 of them.
So then I guess my next thing is I've decided to make Tyler Risco my chief deputy. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I think I told Dan yesterday. And there's some, on the payment, I just wanted to nail down a proper payment with the new way we're the pay scale, I guess. And Tyler has 5 years of military experience that we didn't bring up when he was first hired.
Yeah.
And I would like to incorporate that into his pay as chief deputy. He's doing a phenomenal job, and he deserves that.
I think, Dan, you shared that with us in an email.
Yep, so I
So
believe-
we knew that.
Our
And it's
concurrence
still
here
worded-
would be step 6, which is chief deputy, and step 8.
Yes.
Grade 6, step 8, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were budgeted for a grade 6, step 9, so we'd still be lower than what we budgeted.
We need a motion for that, right? Do we need a motion for that?
I don't
No, maybe
I don't
not.
know that you do, I think it's the correct placement.
Well,
And we would do this with any other person who could show practical experience or apply their prior life, so to speak. And so from that standpoint, I don't think you do, but I want you to be aware of it. And if you want to make a motion, you certainly can.
well, with the experience and the job title, that's the category it falls in, so.
Yeah,
Correct.
I agree.
It makes sense.
I think it's just,
Well, it's up to probably me, but it's probably up to you to pick the grade and the pay.
yeah.
So,
Well, maybe we should have a motion on that to make that.
I'll make a motion that we concur with his recommendation of making him
I'll second
chief
it.
deputy.
Okay, motion made by Stan, second by Brian L. Any other discussion on it? No other discussion, if I hear none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And welcome aboard, by the way.
thank you, sir.
Yep.
Just a update.
And he's buying lunch today. So
Yeah.
he's not-
Really? Oh, man.
Maybe I can stop by once. The next thing I want to talk about is the Dodge Charger. It hasn't been outfitted yet. I've been trying to get it there for months. They're busy, really busy. I finally got the guy to start email corresponding with me a couple days ago, and I emailed him and haven't heard again. So it's a back and forth deal, and I'm trying to get it there, but they're swamped over there. That business has blown up like you wouldn't believe.
What's all gotta be done?
Just outfitted with the equipment and the ordered the equipment.
Siren, lights, all that?
Yeah, and then I'm trying to get him to buy the other one off of us, so it's a discounted price too. So they'll buy the old patrol car that's sitting over there, the Tahoe,
Yeah.
and then they'll take out of there. They'll take out of there what they'll leave it in there because cages don't fit in newer cars anymore. So like that cage in the old car, they'll leave in there and they'll try to outfit it for a smaller department that'll buy a car like that that's used.
Mhm.
So
Is there other options, other places could get it done, or is this about the only?
no, there's more. It's just not as good of work.
Just in Bismarck?
No, it's in Minnesota. We've been going there for 3 years now, 4 years, since we got one of that first stone driven vehicle. And they've done phenomenal.
Yeah. So are you able to use it now then, yet, or?
I mean, we like to drive it if we can, start it up. We don't really patrol with it.
Okay.
Not marked.
Yeah.
I could get that done, I guess. Over at one of the body shops.
Yeah. I mean, if you got it, it'd be good to use it, but.
Yeah.
Right. But I just wanted to give you an update on that because I figured you would want to know. So that's about all I got for today.
So
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't get to the body shop very often in Martin. I
Okay.
usually get there probably once a year back into the storage building. And the other day I was in there and I asked them, I said, well, whose motorcycle is this? Is you getting paid storage on it? It's been there 3.5 years. Do you have any idea why it's still there?
Yes.
Okay?
Can I tell you? No.
No, I know you can't tell me. My question is this. Is it gonna be there for 10 years?
Don't know.
So who's gonna pay storage on it? Does anybody get to pay storage, or they have to sit on it all this time with nothing?
I don't know how that'll work, to be honest. We'd have to probably ask Oliver. Maybe Wells County will have to pay it.
I was just curious. I couldn't figure out why that motorcycle, it's a pretty nice cycle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
I
it
know.
just keeps sitting there.
It's like evidence, is that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was involved in a pretty big crime.
And that's not solved?
Mm-mm.
Are they working on it?
Absolutely.
Okay, I was just very curious.
You know, there's cases like that, Wells County would have to pay for
I
storage.
suppose that's our.
Well, if it's 3.5 years, they'd have to submit a bill, and that's how that works.
Okay, so if that's set, and they've been storing it, and a person comes to pick it up in 3 or 5 or 10 years, and it has deteriorated, whose headache is that? Well,
Whose liability?
Yeah, let's, I mean, these are things that happen.
Is there, I don't know if insurance would help with some of that,
Well, I'm just
I
asking.
would assume. But, I mean, absolutely, we took it, it's evidence.
Yeah, I'm sure insurance would dig in there someplace probably.
Because I know the dad has been wondering what's going on with it years back. I think he's kind of forgot about it now, because it's just there.
No, he hasn't, I've talked to him. He knows it's there.
Okay, I was just,
He hasn't forgotten about it, trust me.
no,
You don't forget about a Harley.
well,
I got one too I never ride, I know where it's at.
okay, and I wasn't concerned, other than I saw that and it just had a curiosity. That's the only reason I was asking.
Yes, sir.
Because I see it there every time I get in that building. I'm going, what, that thing's still here?
Yep.
So, okay.
Well, now it's cleared up, if there's storage due, better tell them to take care of it.
Well, whatever, I just, and they didn't ask me about it, I've seen this thing there when I go in there and I go, why is that still here? Because it's too nice of a bike to just be sitting there.
It's a nice bike.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did I hear to start with, it said that 90 cases open?
93 we had, not open. I'm just, we would run in the 60s a year, 60s, 70 to.
That's total cases in the last 12 months.
That's just all the cases that we opened, from the minimal arrests to open investigations we still have.
Yeah.
That's the number we were at the end, at December 31st, was 93.
Everything working out good with Oliver?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Can you give us an update on Stone Garden? Kinda heard that funding was getting cut for
They
most
are,
counties.
the federal government is cutting all tier 3 counties.
Really? Like,
And that could be administration change, and that could come back
I was
now
gonna
that
say,
Trump's president. We
now that
don't
Trump-
know until we know.
sure.
And that was funding for which year? This year or 26?
No, we'll have it for another, depends on how fast the deputies work it. Really, to be honest, it's by hours. You get an allotted amount of hours per grant. And if the deputies or I will go out and work it faster, then the grant is expired faster. So you could be done at the end of this year with both of them. I think I have 2 left, 2 physical years left.
Oh, so this isn't real
You have
easy.
24 and 25.
Well, it's
Or you're
like,
using 23 and got
It's like
24.
grants 22 and 23.
Yes.
24 is what got pulled from us, but don't confuse the grant year with the actual
right,
calendar
it's,
year.
the federal government is behind
A year.
a
Behind.
couple
But
years.
it sounds like 2 years, right?
Usually, and they like to stay about a year behind, but it can fall back 3 years sometimes. It depends.
So you'll have it for a while. Practically, you'll have it for a while yet.
For a little while.
Most likely this whole year, probably.
This whole year, yeah.
Okay, all right. By then, something will change. Probably.
You never know. Anything else for these guys? Thanks for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Any
you.
update on Gabe, I guess? What's,
I don't know. He hasn't really said. I know he's looking for Wisconsin stuff.
okay.
Hasn't sold his
Thank
house.
you.
His house sign is still there. Hasn't sold his house yet.
Take care. Thank you, Dan.
All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Laura,
I am here.
morning.
Good morning.
Oh, we're a minute early.
Yeah, see?
Very efficient, new chairman.
Way better.
Sorry to wait until we got back.
We ain't got 25 people from the water board sitting back there.
What's that?
I said we ain't got 25 people for the water board
We'll
sitting
hang on
back.
until Stan gets back. You don't want to repeat anything here.
Well, I don't know, Dan just asked me to bring you some of kind of what happens in our office. So I just wrote up something and I scribbled everywhere, and so hopefully I
Sounds interesting.
stick to task.
And while we're waiting for Stan to get back, truth be told, you know, it doesn't make any difference whether it's the health district or the weed board, or in this case, departments in the Wells County Courthouse. I just think it's good sometimes for you guys, you're gonna invariably get asked questions that you're not capable of answering as much as you'd like to.
Without a doubt.
And so I think